This part of the season is where habits start to matter. The standings feel familiar, the waiver wire gets thinner, and it's easy to convince yourself that you've got time to figure things out later. But December has a way of exposing where you've been paying attention and where you haven't. So tonight we're going to do two things. First, we're going to check in on the Round Ball Rants Fantasy League, every matchup, where things stand, and how close some of these weeks really are. Then we're going to hit the waiver wire, because staying active right now isn't about chasing upside. It's about protecting yourself from complacency as rotations tighten and injuries start to stack up. And after all that, we're going to slow it down a moment. Because the season is long, December is heavy, and there's value in knowing when to push and when to pause. I'm Vincent Cooper, and this is Round Ball Rants. Let's get started. This week gave us a little bit of everything. Big scores, a 1-point loss, a blowout, and a reminder that efficiency and execution still matter, even when the margins get tight. We'll start with the individual performances that drove the week, then get through every matchup, and finish where the league stands. And a quick note that the points that we are reporting here are for our sleeper league. Obviously, these players will have similar good games in whatever scoring format that you use. But that being said, let's get into it. Few stars separated themselves this week with massive fantasy nights. Nikola Jokic, Denver Nuggets, led the way with 72 fantasy points in the fantasy league. The top individual output of the week. When Jokic has nights like that, he usually decides matchups by itself. Stephen Curry, Golden State Warriors, followed with 62 fantasy points, reminding everyone how quickly a week can swing when he gets hot. Anthony Edwards chips in from the Minnesota Timberwolves, dropping 58 fantasy points, continuing his steady run of high-end production. Brandon Ingram, Toronto Raptors, finished with 48 fantasy points, and Mikal Bridges of the New York Knicks added 45. If you had one of those names in your lineup in your league this week, you were probably competitive. The best team of the week went to Team B Clem 23, 267 points. Worst team of the week was Team Lamb 978 with 132 points. Highest points in a loss was yours truly, Buckets, Boards, and Dick, 266, and the lowest points in a win, Team 7 with 172. Efficiency played a role again this week. Team Loose Moose 7763 posted the most efficient lineup, while Team Peberun had the least efficient week. Now, let's get into the matchups. Buckets, Boards, and Dick 6-2 versus Team B Clem 5-3. Final score 267 to 266. This was the matchup of the week. Buckets, Boards, and Dick put up 266 points, which would beat almost everyone else in the league, but still took the loss by a single point. Team B Clem 23 edges it out with 267 and earns Best Team of the Week. It's a tough one to swallow, and it's a reminder that in fantasy basketball, even great weeks don't guarantee wins. Twins at 6-2 versus Team Loose Moose 7763, 2-6. Final score 260 to 179. Twins handled business with 260 points, one of the stronger totals on the board. Loose Moose takes the loss at 179, but still put together the most efficient lineup of the week. This was a case where efficiency alone wasn't enough to close the gap. Team UJ's 5-3 versus Team 3, 2-6. Final score 208 to 153. UJ's takes a clean win with 208 points. Team 3 lands at 153 and continues to search for consistent weekly production. This one was decided early and never really lightened up. Team Curry 30 Money 5-3 versus Team Lamb 978 1-7. Final score 213 to 132. Curry 30 Money cruises to a 213 point win. Lamb 978 finishes with 132, the lowest total of the week. That's a matchup where the gap was clear from start to finish. And Team Pebron 7-1 versus Team 7 4-4. Final score 172 to 154. Team 7 pulls off the win with 172 points, which also makes them the lowest scoring winning team of the week. Pebron takes the loss at 154 and had the least efficient lineup of the week. Tough way to lose the undefeated streak. Even with the loss, Pebron remains at the top of the standings though, but this was a reminder that off weeks can still cost you. Team 9 at 1-7 versus Team J has the picks 4-4. Final score 265 to 139. Jay has the picks explodes for 265 points, one of the top totals of the week. Team 9 finishes at 139 and couldn't keep pace. This was the most lopsided matchup of the week. And here are your standings after week 8. In first place is Team Pebron at 7-1. In second is Buckets, Boards, and Dick at 6-2. Twins sits in third at 6-2. Team UJs is in fourth at 5-3. In fifth is Team B Clem 23 at 5-3. In sixth is Team Curry 30 Money at 5-3. In seventh is Team J has the picks 4-4. In eighth is Team 7 at 4-4. In ninth, Team 3 at 2-6. And in 10th, Team Loose Moose 7763 at 2-6. In 11th is Team 9 at 1-7. And in 12th is Team Lamb 978 at 1-7. Before we get into the waiver wire, just a quick pause. Today's episode is brought to you by Dubby Energy Formula, official partner of Round Ball Rants. If you're grinding through long days, late nights, or trying to stay locked in without wrecking your sleep, Dubby is built for exactly that. No sugar, no artificial junk, no crash halfway through your night. Just clean, focused energy that lasts. Whether you're setting fantasy lineups, watching West Coast games, or finally getting a quiet moment to yourself after the day winds down. I've been using it during these December stretches where everything feels stacked. And the biggest thing I noticed is this: I'm alert without feeling wired. If you've been on the fence, now's the time. Head to w.gg and use promo code RoundBallRants to support the show and try it for yourself. Alright, let's get back into it and talk about waivers. We're heading into week 9. Schedules are wonky because of the NBA Cup, and lineup decisions matter more than ever. Having the right ads now can be the difference between squeaking out a win or falling behind this month. Here are 5 waiver wire pickups experts are emphasizing for this week. Legit ads that can help you right now. Number 1, Bobby Portis, power forward, center, Milwaukee Bucks. With Giannis expected to miss more time, Bobby Portis becomes a fantasy addition with real usage and minutes. He's been a steady producer when given a bigger role, and that should continue if Giannis remains sidelined. Why you want him? Steady rebounds, points, and defensive stats with extended opportunity. Number 2, Kyle Filipowski, power forward, center, Utah Jazz. Filipowski has been carving out a more consistent role and producing in multiple categories: scoring, boards, assists, and even threes. Over his past few games, he's shown he can impact fantasy lineups. Why do you want him? Multi-category production and increasing minutes, especially valuable if you need big man stats. In third is Jordan Walsh, small forward, power forward of the Boston Celtics. Walsh has carved out consistent minutes in a Celtics rotation and has been surprisingly productive across points, boards, and peripheral stats. When his role is steady, he delivers value that's rare on the wire. Why do you want him? His role is growing. Efficient scoring, helpful across multiple categories. In fourth, Jose Alvarado, point guard, New Orleans Pelicans. Alvarado's recent usage and assist numbers have popped up enough that he's turning into a legitimate hold in fantasy, especially if your team needs assists, steals, or general peripheral production. Why do you want him? Strong assist totals and defensive stats when he's on the floor. In fifth, we have Herbert Jones, small forward of the New Orleans Pelicans. Jones missed some time earlier this season, but returned and saw significant minutes again, giving you steals, defensive stats, and contributions across the board. If he sticks in a steady role, he's one of the better waiver wire pickups for your Week 9. Why do you want him? Category diversity, steals, boards, blocks, and efficient scoring. This week's wire is about opportunity and role stability. You aren't just looking for points, you're looking for minutes and consistency. These 5 guys give you beyond points value, rebounds, assists, defensive stats, and multi-category impact. In quick favor, before we keep going, if you're listening to Round Ball Rants right now, and you haven't yet, I really appreciate you taking a moment to follow the show on Apple Podcasts. Apple is a big part of how this show grows, and every follow, every rating, every quick review helps this thing reach people who care about basketball the same way that we do. If the show's helped you think about the game a little bit differently, or just giving you something steady to come back to during the week, that support matters more than you probably realize. So if you're on Apple Podcasts, tap follow, leave a rating, and if you got the time, drop a short review. It helps more than any algorithm ever could. Alright, let's keep it moving. Yesterday, on the show, we talked about the finish line being in sight, about pushing through December, about why this stretch feels heavier than it should, and about how to get through it. And all of that is true. But tonight, I want to pause on something else, because it can't always be about survival. We spend so much time talking about making it through December that we forget December is also supposed to be lived in. Yes, it's busy. Yes, it's loud. Yes, it's exhausting. But it's also the one time of year where the little moments matter more than the big ones. The quiet ones, the in-between ones, the ones that don't make noise but still stay with you. Sometimes the work isn't pushing harder. Sometimes the work is stopping long enough to notice that you actually made it to a moment of peace. That not everything is on fire right now. That not every decision needs to be urgent. That not every night has to feel like a test. We talked a lot about getting through December because it is heavy. But there are nights, maybe not many, but enough, where you get a little bit of a breath. A calm moment, a still room, a laugh that you didn't expect, a memory forming without you trying to force it. And those moments are easy to miss when you're already focused on the next thing that you have to survive. Thriving doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes thriving looks like sitting still and letting yourself enjoy the fact that you're okay right now. Not perfect, not finished, just okay. The holidays aren't supposed to be a checklist. They're supposed to be felt. And if you're not careful, you can work so hard to get through them that you forget to actually be in them. So if you get a moment of peace this week, don't rush past it. If you get a night that feels lighter, don't tell yourself you'll enjoy it later. Later isn't promised, but the moment is. You've worked hard to get here. You've carried a lot into December. You're allowed to pause. You're allowed to breathe. You're allowed to enjoy the quiet when it shows up. That doesn't make you soft. It makes you human. My name is Vincent Cooper. This was Round Ball Rants. And thank you for spending part of your day with me. And always remember, it's not just basketball, It's therapy with a bounce.